Welcome in to another episode of the Barnes on Bama podcast. I'm your host, Owen Barnes, and we have a lot to discuss. First things first, I want to thank all the people who joined the live stream. It was very impromptu on Saturday night. I really do appreciate it. The podcast that I'm actually about to cut to was recorded live Saturday evening after the Alabama-Tennessee game. It was very impromptu, as I said. It was something where my recording software, I was able to get it all set up, and I wanted to be able to smoke a cigar following the victory over Tennessee as I broke down the game. I kind of went down in its full. Went through the full game, talked about the offense, the defense, everything to do with that. I even got into some basketball because some of the people in the comments started asking about Noah Williamson and some others. So I really do appreciate all of you for joining that. I want to mention here up at the top, that is something that I'm actually interested potentially in doing again for the future. So I'm starting to think, and I'd talk about it in the episode as well, but I'm thinking about potentially doing some live streams on Sunday evenings to break down the Saturday basketball game from the day before, as well as preview the week's games ahead. So if y'all are potentially interested in having some live streams, those would be on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all the places you'd find your streams. But curious if y'all might be interested in that. Want to get kind of some of the people that watch these videos, get your input. Not 100% set on that something I'm going to do, but I think it is something I'm very much leaning towards, starting maybe with this Sunday with because Alabama does have an exhibition game against Furman that's going to be happening on Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock. And then obviously Alabama has its first game on November the 3rd on that Monday. So wanted to kind of be able to talk about that kind of stuff. So if you guys are potentially interested in the live stream, just let me know down in the comments. It's something that I said I'm thinking about starting doing potentially weekly. So definitely would like to get some input on that. Really quick, I want to thank all the subscribers. If you're not currently subscribed to the channel, if you could do me a favor and subscribe. I know about 70% of the people that watch are not currently subscribed. And then finally, I am on the Believe Podcast Network, so anything you could do to help out the sponsors, we would appreciate. I was able to confirm later today that South Carolina, I've been able to get an episode locked in with that. We're going to record late on Wednesday, so that'll release first thing on Thursday. So if you're interested in a South Carolina preview game before the game in Columbia, go ahead and subscribe to the channel as well. I will have the Believe in Gamecocks podcast on the show, so very excited to have another collaboration this week. But I'll stop the yapping and get right over to the live stream and the podcast that I recorded on Saturday evening. We are coming to you live, actually, from my backyard. Alabama just took down Tennessee by a score of 37-20. Decided to go live tonight because it's the cigar game, and this is one that, being an Alabama fan, living in this state, this is one that means a lot to me. This is one that I have been very, very interested in since my time in college. Growing up in college, I, frequented R&R cigars. I was in the age when you could originally smoke at 19 before they changed it to 21. And it was something that I really enjoyed. And so this cigar game does mean a good bit to me. Obviously, Alabama was able to take down Tennessee in what was a phenomenal game. We will talk about it here very shortly. But if you have not had the chance to meet me, my name's Owen Barnes. I'm the host here at Barnes on Bama. You can catch me every week doing previews and breakdowns of both Alabama football and Alabama basketball. With that content, I am a part of the Believe Podcast Network, so all the ads you hear on Spotify and Apple is because I am a part of that network. We have been able to do quite a few collabs here recently, trying to set one up for South Carolina. We'll see if I'm able to do so. But there are quite a few people on that network that I'm able to partnership with. I was really thankful for Evan over at the Vol Bros for letting me come on his show as well as coming on mine this week in preparation for this game. But, this game honestly was phenomenal. In my mind, there's no other way to talk about it other than that. I think that this Alabama game was a masterclass in defense from Kane Womack. A lot is talked about with Alabama's offense, and for good reason, for absolutely good reason. But I think that the
the big thing that you kind of have to look at when you're talking about what Alabama was able to do today, Alabama was able to shut down one of the top scoring offenses in all of college football for a huge stretch of this game. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. They, struggled in run defense. They gave up some chunk plays. But at the end of the day, it was a very bend but don't break style. Even as the game ends, Tennessee's trying to punch it in, and Alabama over and over and over again shows that they were able to stop that from happening. I was thoroughly impressed with what Alabama was able to do on the defensive side of the football today. Obviously, you have to talk about Xavier Brown when you're talking about that. Xavier's ability to, get that interception and completely turn around what looked like it was going to be a very, very tight game going into the half was, clearly the turning point in this game. Alabama goes from what would have been, even if Tennessee kicks a field goal, a 6-point lead, and instead Alabama's up by a score of 23-7 going into half because of just an absolutely incredible catch and run back by Xavier. I saw some people from Tennessee fans, I know Greg and the crew kind of pointed it out. I thought that was a terrible play call on Tennessee's part. At the end of the day, nobody bit on the play action. And when you look at what was working for them, Tennessee was doing well running the football, but in that specific play, Alabama had no thought to think it was going to be a run, right? Alabama had zero thought thinking that it was going to be a run on that play just due to the fact that there were no timeouts and there was 9 seconds left. If you run and don't get it, time expires. You don't have enough time to get to the line and spike it. So it just didn't make any sense to me what that play call was. Obviously, still credit to Alabama's defense for doing what you're supposed to do on a play like that. They were able to exactly do what they needed to do. Right, Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, back in the NFL, they all talked about do your job. Whatever it is, just do your job. And Xavier Brown did that, right? His job was to keep that receiver, or I guess the tight end, at bay, and he did not bite on the play fake at all. He read the quarterback's eyes the whole way, broke on the ball, absolutely phenomenal catch. Do I still think that Alabama got a little... I don't want to say stagnant. I guess stagnant's the right word, running the football. I understand why you were running the football and what you tried to do from Grubb's standpoint. A big key in this game clearly was holding onto the football as much as you could on offense, establishing that run, because you knew that Tennessee's offense potentially was going to go quick and it was going to keep their defense on the field a lot. And I think that you did see some of that, but I do think that there were a couple of drives where Alabama, was getting no push in the run game, but still ran it on first and second down. And then if Ty doesn't make a play on third, all of a sudden the drive's over, right? And that hurts you kind of at the beginning of the second half. Did it end up killing you in this game? No. But I did think it's something that, Ryan Grubb and the coaching staff is going to have to consider moving forward is what they're going to do in the run game. Obviously, I thought that Alabama has not been the best team running the football. You did see some emergence of Daniel Hill. Would like to see more of him moving forward. See if he potentially can give you some extra boost running the ball. Kevin Riley didn't give you much on the ground today. Jam Miller didn't give you much on the ground. I mean, your best two runners of the football, not named Daniel Hill, were actually Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams. And that just can't be the case if you're going to run the football in major college football. I do think that what Alabama was able to do in general on offense was very, very good. Obviously, Ty Simpson was very precise with the football. I would have liked to have seen them review the fumble. I thought that the fumble potentially was still in his hand when it was moving forward. I thought it was really bang, really close. It could have gone either way. So, I'm not super upset that they didn't review it. And obviously it did not matter at the end of this game, but I do think that it was something that could have mattered. Obviously, Ty, really just has to be a little bit more aware of his surroundings, not have it be an issue when Caden Proctor bumps into him. That's not something that Ty is particularly had issues with this season, but obviously, you have to talk about what happened in the game. I will say this game being such a big deal for Ryan Williams, for me, was huge. I thought that Ryan Williams, a lot was talked about him last week, not getting a catch. For those unaware, he was injured last week. He did play, but he was listed on the injury report and then just was not at 100%. You could tell that he definitely was more back in full spirits this week. I thought it was huge getting him catches early. I really liked Ryan using his hands. A lot has been talked about him using the body and, worried about contact and such. I thought that he did a really, really good job in this game. Using his hands, catching the football. He also did a good job not worrying about contact. There were a couple of catches that he had that were in traffic where he ended up getting hit fairly soon thereafter. I thought that he did a really good job from that standpoint. So I think that, going forward for the rest of the season, I think that it's just really good to get his confidence back. Still, one of your alphas on the receiving core, and I tweeted about it, is Jeremy Bernard. Jeremy Bernard continues to be that guy. He is the alpha in the receiving room, in my opinion. Obviously, Ryan Williams gets all the praise, or gets all the glamour, I guess I should say, not really praise, but gets a lot of the glamour. And in my mind, that's because of Hollywood being Hollywood and, what he did last season, like in that Georgia game, etc. But Jeremy Bernard led you in receiving last year. Jeremy Bernard leads you in receiving this year. He's the most steady player. It's clear that Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer trust him to do absolutely anything with the football. They tried to get him another pass, this week. Really liked his decision to not throw the football, then absolutely escape masterclass to be able to get a first down out of that when it looked like it was going to be like a 15-yard loss. Really, really like what I see out of Jeremy Bernard every single game. It's the reason why, when I'm asked about like who our impact player is or who, I was asked on the Vol Bros show, hey, what is one thing that a Tennessee fan may not know? I said, Jeremy Bernard is the alpha in the receiving room. He is the guy who is the glue guy that really makes our team go. It's not Ryan Williams. I said that exact fact. And, Ryan, again, you don't want to discredit what he did today because I thought obviously his catches were very, very important. But Jeremy Bernard continues to be that outlet and that safety blanket for Ty Simpson and for Ryan Grubb and for Kalen DeBoer. It's very, very clear how much they trust him. Kalen's been on record saying that Jeremy could play safety with, a week of prep. They truly trust that kid, and they talked about it on the broadcast, him coming back to play with Ty Simpson has been absolutely nothing short of incredible. And I've been very, very happy to have him this season. Some other things when we're talking about the way this game went down, I thought that Ty Simpson has continued to show why he's the best quarterback in the country. He does not get shaken on long third downs, fourth downs. He just stays steady in the pocket. There was one throw that I particularly didn't love, and it's the one they talked about on the broadcast where Kalen was kind of ripping him, where he threw it back to Josh Cuevas instead of just throwing it on 4th and 2 to Jeremy at the very end of this game. I thought that is something that, Ty does have a little bit of a tendency to do, almost to try to do too much. He's done a fairly good job at it. A couple of things that come to mind is like that one. Every so often you'll see him try to run when it really feels like, hey, dude, just slide. It's okay, right? Like you've got enough. Taking a little bit of unnecessary contact. He didn't do terrible with that today, but that is something that we have seen out of Ty. But in general, his decision-making is phenomenal. He's the best on 3rd and 4th down in the country. And as Brooks Austin, the film guy, says, if you're the best on 3rd and 4th down, then I consider you the best. And I would 100% agree with that sentiment. I thought that Ty Simpson, has continued to show why he's at the top of the Heisman rankings. He's continued to show what Kalen DeBoer's offense looks like. I thought that he's getting better and better and better with his adjustments at the line. Obviously he does better at home than he does on the road, but I thought that, it didn't really feel like you were having to snap it with that 1 second to go. I thought that he was making his checks at the line a little quicker today than he sometimes does, and really was getting the offense set into the plays that he wanted. And that's something that, to me, just shows somebody that's completely dialed in, is completely ready to go for a game. It's continued to be night and day compared to what you saw in the Florida State game on the road. We talked about that with the Georgia game and how well he did on third down, how well he was able to handle that noise in Athens. We talked about it last week with what he was able to do in Columbia, but I think that it just is worth mentioning. Ty continues to show game in and game out that he is the quarterback that, we needed him to be. It's the reason why all offseason, I talked to Clint Lamb, I talked to Nick Kelly, I talked to plenty of people. And the question was very simple, like, who do you think the quarterback is? And kind of our general consensus is we thought that Ty Simpson was the guy and he was going to be very good. I said at one point this offseason that not only was Ty going to be very good, was going to be the guy, but that it wasn't going to be a quarterback controversy at all. Ty was going to win it. He was going to be phenomenal. He was going to have a 3,000-yard passing season, and that he was then going to go to the NFL draft. And so it wasn't going to matter. Your real quarterback controversy was for next year. And that's coming to fruition. Ty has quickly shot up draft boards. Ty has quickly become the guy that NFL teams want. He's going through progressions. He's, reading the field great. His footwork is phenomenal. His playmaking ability is incredible. You see the throw on 4th and 8 last week. That's still the wow throw for everybody, down distance. Had to have it on the road, where just everything surrounding that throw makes it kind of the throw that's probably going to be on every highlight tape for him, and for good reason. And it, to me, shows that your real quarterback, quote unquote, controversy is going to be for next season with Keelan Russell and Austin Mack. I think that Keelan Russell probably ends up winning that battle long term. Would it shock me if I saw Austin Mack trot out there for the first game? Probably not. At the end of the day, he has been with Kalen DeBoer for a long time, and he has, Kalen DeBoer, he was with Kalen DeBoer at Washington, transferred with him to Alabama, and is somebody that clearly Kalen DeBoer trusts. He also has an absolute cannon for an arm, so, he has the physical ability. I personally think Keelan Russell is a little bit more polished. I think that he's a little bit more effortless with what he does, but I do think that that's going to be your true controversy, is going to be, is it a Keelan Russell? Is it an Austin Mack? Another thing that we kind of have talked about on the show, if you've been listening to the podcast or watching any of my content, Michael Carroll got our start today, and I thought that in general, Carroll had a pretty good game today. At the end of this game, they did swap over to Wilkin Formby. Would be curious to hear what the post-game thoughts were, or what the thoughts are tomorrow or on Monday when we hear from Ryan Grubb. Would be curious to hear what kind of his thoughts on Michael Carroll and Jaden Roberts with the start. I noticed that we had Geno Vandermark swap over to right guard, and Will Sanders move into left guard at some points in the second half when Formby came in. Even though you started with Vandermark at left guard and Roberts at right, I'm assuming that has to do with Roberts getting his ankle injury, and so that's what brought in Will Sanders and had Vandermark swap over, because I think Sanders is just more comfortable at the left guard spot. But would be curious as to kind of the thoughts related to that right tackle position. It's something that Grubb has been asked about before. It sounded like they were really close to pulling the trigger and having Michael Carroll start. Obviously, you saw that in today's game. And at the end of the day, they only gave up one sack. You could consider the fumble to obviously be on the offensive line as well, from the fact that, A, they didn't jump on the football with it being a fumble, and B, it was Caden Proctor that got pushed into Ty that caused that fumble. But I will also say that I thought that in general, the Alabama offensive line held up as well as you could have expected. Tennessee was number 2 in the country in sacks, by far led the SEC. They had over 20 sacks this season, and Alabama only gave up 1. Funny enough, by comparison, Alabama was actually a much worse team at getting to the quarterback. And a guy that I'm actually sorry that it took me, 17 minutes into this before I talked about him, but Jan Zapier. Jan Zapier had an absolutely incredible game. Jan Zapier is a 5-star guy. He was behind Quay Russaw. Obviously, Russaw gets hurt. Pierre comes in. It seemed like Pierre was going to get a lot of playing time this offseason, or, we had heard that in the summer. We knew that he was going to get some playing time, but, Pierre has his breakout game today, right? He has 2 sacks to start the game off. He also forces the safety. Jan Zapier was an absolute force early in this game, and I thought that it really settled the defense in, and it was a huge reason why Alabama only gave up 7 points in the first half. I tweeted about it. I said it on the Volbro show. I think I put a short out about it. I was anybody that would listen to me. I kind of said Tennessee is likely to score on that first drive, and if they do not stress, because Alabama has struggled this season early at starting the game. Kane Womack has done a really good job at adjusting to what the defense is giving him, but he has struggled at starting the game. And then they go out and prove me wrong. The defense absolutely starts as well as they have all season, getting off the field with a 3-and-out. Then Alabama scores. They get off the field again. The offense sputters a little bit. Tennessee's able to score after the safety and after Alabama scores. But it really felt like this game, was largely different than what we had seen from the Alabama defense all season, and that's a good thing, right? Kane Womack starting this game quicker, getting the defense prepared at the level that he was able to, I thought was phenomenal. I think that it was incredibly crucial because of how well Tennessee starts games. I think it also caused them to not run the football as much in the first half. And their inability to commit to running the football in the first half, to me, was a big reason why they only scored 7 points. You saw in the second half when they committed to running the football, Tennessee, did a pretty good job. They were able to move the football substantially better. They still had problems in the red zone, green zone, whatever you want to call it, but Tennessee definitely struggled running the football, or committing to running the football, I guess I should say, in that first half. And to me, again, that was a huge reason why Alabama was able to have such success, because Joey Aguilar, they talked about his neck injury, and, we said coming into this game, he was not a pinpoint passer, and I thought that was the thing that kind of scared me the most, when looking at Tennessee in this game. Alabama all season has played zone, and I made a point to mention it. Brooks Austin has talked about it. Like, plenty of people have talked about this. But Alabama sits back in zones and basically makes the quarterback drive down the field and pick you apart. Makes the quarterback go every single drive, march down the field, pick apart the zones, and limits big plays. And what you noticed in this game, Tennessee was able to get huge chunk plays against Georgia. They got none of them against Alabama. And a huge reason why they got none of them for Alabama was because of how Alabama played defense. Like I said, Alabama's defense and what they were able to do really stopped what Tennessee was trying to do. And again, I thought that was going to be a problem for Joey Aguilar. He has not been a quarterback that's really been comfortable with the dinks and dunks. He has not been the quarterback that I think is prepared to have to march down the field the whole way. Right? He has not been that quarterback. And so for me, the reason why that becomes a major problem is if he's not the quarterback that's comfortable with dinking and dunking and just picking his spots in the zones, that becomes a major issue. And if you have that major issue where he, isn't picking his spots because he's not dinking it, dunking, and he is trying to do more of the deep ball, it really felt like Tennessee was going to struggle in this game. And again, when to me, like, that was my big concern with Tennessee's offense in this one, is I thought that they would be able to run the football, and they were. And I thought that they potentially would have some open spots in the zones, and they had them. But you saw, probably 3 or 4 drops by Tennessee. You saw one by Kitzelman. You saw a couple by the receivers. And to me, that was just a huge factor in this game because, again, like, Aguilar had to be pinpoint accurate in this game. If he was not pinpoint accurate in this game, you really have struggles with Alabama because you can't hit the deep ball. Alabama not playing man coverage makes that deep ball much less likely. And like I said, to me, that was kind of the big key to this game. I thought that Tennessee was going to struggle, and they did. I thought that admittedly, I did think Tennessee was going to score a little more. And I think part of that is I thought that Tennessee was going to start faster. And that's why I opened this by, talking about, I think that the most impressive thing that Alabama did in this game was start this game as fast as they did on defense and get the pressure on Joey Aguilar that they got on him. Because when you look at the game plan coming into this and the scouting report for Tennessee was that they had scored a touchdown in every drive this season to open the game. Alabama had given up a touchdown in quite a few drives to open the game. So that scouting report was in dire opposites, right? Josh Heupel was, getting his team off and running quickly. Kane Womack was not doing well in defense. And when I hear that we win the toss, we defer, I was happy we deferred, obviously get the ball in the second half, but I was really concerned. And so to me, to start off the game with the stop that you had on defense, that was it can't be overstated how important that was for our defense. I thought that, again, getting something like that and getting getting off the field on defense, getting to where you're ready to go, and getting off the field on defense, it was huge. Getting the touchdown on offense was huge. And again, it really felt like because of that, Tennessee didn't run the football. And their inability to commit to running the ball, to me, was the difference in this one. And I've said it, but it was a huge key in this game. I did think that, and I'm sure there will be a lot talked about as it relates to penalties. I thought this was by far not the most sloppily officiated game. And when it's a 17-point win, nobody can blame the officials. But I think on both sides, there were a lot of calls in this game that were just weird. I thought that there was a missed hold on the long run. I saw Tennessee fans complaining about some missed calls from holds. It was just kind of weird with the way that the officiating worked in this one. At times it felt like they were letting them play, and then at times it felt like they were almost nitpicking. In general, I don't think the officiating played a huge role in this one. But I wanted to point it out because I'm sure somebody's going to come in the comments and talk about it. So thought it was worth at least mentioning. We did have a comment by Thomas over on YouTube talking about happy for Tide looking to be QB1 in the 2026. Absolutely agree with that. Ty Simpson is looking to be the absolute number one draft pick. As of now, it looks like the Jets may be taking him. We will see as it relates to the NFL draft. But Ty Simpson, yes, does indeed look like he is going to be the guy. Is going to be the guy that goes number one in that NFL draft from a quarterback perspective. Very, very excited for that. Like I said, I think that that's going to cause your quarterback controversy to be for next season, not for this season. Really quick here. Let's make sure. I want to thank everybody for joining me live tonight. I really do appreciate it. I know this was kind of an impromptu thing. I got it set up with Riverside, which is what I use to record with my guests. I wasn't sure if anybody was going to be interested in this. From a basketball standpoint, I'm considering doing some live streams as well. Probably will record a video here maybe later this week and ask kind of the audience what you guys want to do. I really enjoy interacting with people from a football and basketball standpoint. I know there's a ton of football live streams. Honestly, the only reason I went live tonight is because I wanted to smoke a cigar, and my home office is not set up for that. You know, I've got carpet and everything else, so it just truly isn't set up for that. So I decided the live stream was really what we had to do tonight. So you know, that's the reason why I ended up live streaming, you know, this way tonight. But, you know, I do think that live streaming is something, especially due to the fact that I have my studio set up and I've got everything set up. And I know that a lot of people are really, really excited for Alabama basketball, you know, just to kind of get into that a little bit. You know, you'll see, I did record a video talking about Alabama's win over Florida State. You know, I will say again here, don't take too much out of exhibitions. You know, exhibitions, there's going to be a lot of playing with lineups and such. So an exhibition is not something you need to worry too much about, but, you know, it is something that you can obviously, it's your first look at your team. So that matters. With that being said, I'm very excited what I see out of this team. Additionally, I did drop barnesonbama.com. That's where I'm going to be doing all my writing for this season. I've already dropped a couple of articles, so if you're interested, you can check those out. But like I said, gonna probably put out a little bit of a poll, probably on Twitter and on YouTube, see if I can get some kind of opinions on what people are thinking. I'm thinking potentially like a Sunday evening live stream. To kind of break down the Saturday games that have happened, as well as talk about the midweek games and kind of the week ahead. So that's kind of my current thoughts as it relates to live streaming. As I get this all set up, it's going to be live streamed everywhere. So it's going to be on Facebook, which we weren't able to do tonight because it said my account for the channel was too new, but it'll be on Facebook. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be on Twitter. May go live on TikTok as well, but we'll have it all set up where I go live everywhere to talk about basketball. So if y'all are interested in that, let me know. If y'all want me to do more football live streams, I'm happy to do so. I just know that there's a lot of people that do these and do some call-in streams, like Clint Lamb and, you know, the CTSN guys, and there's just a ton of this kind of stuff for football, and there aren't a ton of basketball people that are doing something like this. I know Hunter Johnson obviously has his call-in radio show. May talk to Hunter and see if I can get on the show at some point this week, or sorry, some point this season for basketball. But you know, that is something I would mention. Dylan, absolutely, it was a phenomenal game. 100% agree. Do think that this game was a little more low scoring than I personally expected, especially on the Tennessee side. You know, we've talked a little bit about that. I think a lot of that had to do with how fast we were able to start on defense. And I think that Kane Womack deserves a lot of credit for that. You know, we've given him a lot of flack for how slow his defense has been the last couple of last couple of games, and I thought that how quickly they started was absolutely phenomenal. But I would 100% agree this was a great game. I do appreciate that it ended up being, a 17-point game and not like the Missouri where I'm having to hold my breath as they're driving with a chance to win the game. So, I appreciate that it was a little bit, larger margin, even though it was a phenomenal game. But I 100% agree this was a great one. Really, really enjoyed it. Let's see. If anybody else has any comments, y'all throw them down in the in whatever chat, and I'm happy to talk them through. But as I said, I really appreciate everybody for hopping on. Yes, the 2 goal line stands were excellent. I 100% agree, Dylan. I thought that and we talked about this a little bit earlier, I thought the original goal line stand by Xavier Brown obviously was the turning point in the game. The fact that you were able to get out of there with a score on defense to, at the end of the day, the score on defense was huge, right? But it was really to go up 16 and to get the ball to come out of the half. I will say, because of the interception and the return for the touchdown, it meant that when we stalled out to start the third quarter, which was really disheartening, I really wanted to see us go up 30 right there to start the second half. But even though we stalled, because the defense was able to get that goal line stand at the end of the first half, it wasn't as big of a deal. But think about it like this: if Tennessee, even if they kick a field goal and that's a 16-10 game, Alabama stalls to start the third quarter and Tennessee gets a touchdown like they did, it's now 17-16. This is a way different game we're talking about. But because Alabama had them at arm's reach because of being able to score that touchdown to end the half, huge deal. I mean, can't be overstated how important that was. And I tweeted out about this. I think that Xavier Brown has now had 2 of the most important plays 2 of the loudest plays in Bryant-Denny Stadium, and at minimum in the last 5 years, but probably ever. I thought that Xavier Brown having the interception to pick off Carson Beck last season, I was at that game with my fiance, and the pick to seal the Georgia game last season was one of the loudest I've personally ever heard it. And then obviously, it's been widely reported by a ton of people that his interception today was another one that was absolutely incredibly loud. RollTide, Sleepy Panda, absolutely agree. Always happy to get a win over Tennessee. Probably not going to stay live for too terribly long. May go about an hour. Maybe 45 minutes. We'll see. I haven't mentioned what I'm smoking. I'm smoking the Casa de Estrellas by R&R Cigars. This is Reagan's cigar. So they talked about him on the TV broadcast. I got some of these a few years ago, and I've got some in my humidor at the house. And so, because of the big win, I decided this is what I would smoke up today. Really, really excited to see just really excited to see the defense play as well as they did. I think that this is going to be a big confidence booster going into next week. Not that I'm much concerned about South Carolina. I still think that South Carolina has a good mobile quarterback and is somebody that you still are going to need your defense to play well. Do I think that Ty is going to be able to have a big game in Columbia? Yeah. But I still think, still would like to see our defense play well, because as you continue to go throughout the season, you're still going to have to play a guy like John Mateer. That he's going to come to town when Oklahoma comes after the LSU game. And John Mateer is still going to give you some problems. That Alabama-Oklahoma game is shaping up to be a huge one. I know a lot of people are going to write him off because of what he did in the loss to Texas, but I would not. I would not write him off as of yet because he clearly was not 100% in that game. And so to me, you can't look at what Mateer did in Red River and consider it, he's officially done. Again, just because he's just coming back from his injury. It's his first time to be able to play. So, that game with Oklahoma in Bryant-Denny Stadium, because it's at home, obviously really excited for it. I think that Alabama is going to have a very good shot to win, but I do think that it's going to be a really, really good game. Oklahoma has a really good defense. John Mateer has been great. So I think it overall will be a very good game. If you aren't currently subscribed to the YouTube channel, if you could do me a favor and subscribe, I would appreciate it. As I said, most of the time we're not going to be doing a ton of live streams. Like I said, may do some polls and stuff because I do think I want to do some for basketball season. So might start doing some on Sundays for basketball season. Pick a time that's good for everybody. Dylan, let's see. Develop our running game next week. I think we are what we are at this point. Daniel Hill did look good. I 100% agree with that, Dylan. My kind of thought process around that is I think that's a big reason why you're seeing guys like Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams be utilized in the run game so much. I think that you're seeing these guys be used because what is happening is we realize that our run game isn't where we want it to be. And, that's for a combination of reasons, inability to get pushed on the offensive line, running back depth, injuries. There's plenty of reasons. But I think that's why you're seeing so much of the screen game. That's why you're seeing so much of the wide receivers being involved with your quick passes and kind of an offshoot of the run game. Absolutely agree, though. The Daniel Hill did look really good. We heard a lot of stuff about him in the offseason that led us to believe that he was going to be really good. You just have not seen a ton of it. I think he was banged up at the end of the offseason, at the end of fall camp. And so I think that kind of led into why he has not played as much. But that I would absolutely agree. Sleepy Panda, see some of AK Deer. I personally think that we're looking at potentially redshirting him, just to get him the extra year of eligibility. The fact that you've only seen him, I believe, in 2 games. I would have to check my stats, but I want to say you've only seen him in 2 games. So because of that, I think that there's a potential red shirt scenario. Obviously, I know with NIL and stuff, you don't see a lot of red shirts, but I personally think that that's what's going on, just because you have not used him a ton. Also, I think that he has a ton of guys in front of him, and my gut says that he's not done enough at practice to be at that point yet. Additionally, I think the biggest reason why he's currently not playing is pass blocking. I think that the reason why Jam Miller, anytime he's healthy, is your number 1 back is how good he is in pass protection. Kevin Riley is great catching the ball. He's not as great picking up the blitz and being there in pass protection. Daniel Hill has the size to be really good at it. You didn't see a ton of it needed today, but I think that's the reason why you're not seeing AK Deer, at least personally. I've not heard anything that would lead me to believe otherwise as it relates to AK Deer. But I do agree that he has elite speed. He's somebody that I'm very excited to see. I kind of put him in the realm of like Derek Meadows. Obviously, it was very sad to see him, go out with a concussion last week. Hope that he's able to fully recover. But I was really, really excited to see him early in that game last week because Derek Meadows is a guy that has a lot of intangibles, that size, that frame, what we've seen out of him, in his recruitment. Obviously, you have such a stacked receiving core and he's still finding a way to get on the field early in a game like that. I thought that was a very big deal. That you trusted your freshman, wide receiver on the road that had really not played a ton. So, I think the freshman class is phenomenal. The likes of Michael Carroll, the likes of, AK Deer and Keelan Russell and, a ton of Dijon Lee. Dijon Lee got a start tonight. Really like to see what I've seen out of him. Obviously, Really like the ball skills on the 2-point conversion to be able to come down with the pick. But, overall, I do think that this freshman class is very, very good, and we're going to be set up for years to come. Additionally, I do think it's kind of funny that everybody was clowning Lotzir Brooks and London Simmons because they're two of the 3 stars that Kalen DeBoer got. And you can make a very easy argument that London Simmons and Lotzir Brooks are 2 of the most important guys on the team right now, at least from a backup standpoint, because I think that Lotzir Brooks gives you something that the other receivers just don't out of the slot. And then London Simmons, as a freshman, has been really, really good on the defensive line. He didn't have a ton of crazy plays today, but in general, I thought that he's been very, very good. And you've needed him with the shallow depth of that position due to the injuries, with Tim Keenan being hurt, James Smith having the targeting penalty, etc. You've really needed London Simmons to play at the level he has, and the fact that you have 2 3-star guys in Lotzir Brooks and London Simmons contributing at the level that they have been, I think that it's just absolutely incredible. It speaks to DeBoer's ability and his staff's ability to scout talent. Again, I don't think that it was the biggest deal in today's game. Obviously, with Lotzir, you did take a couple of shots to him. One of them got the pass interference. One of them, Ty just barely missed him, but was really, really big to see. So, like I said, I know the comment was about AK Deer. Let me see. But I think AK Deer has only been in like 2 games this season. Let's see. Yep. So he only played in the Wisconsin and Louisiana Monroe games. So he has not played since the Wisconsin game. So because of something like that, I personally think that AK is probably going to get redshirted. My gut says you're probably going to get AK Deer redshirted because of that. Good question with Crowell coming in next year. I wonder if a guy like Riley or Hill transfers after this season. Kevin Riley, I highly doubt, due to the fact that he's from Tuscaloosa and he seems like a guy that knew what he was getting himself into when he came. It's a possibility, though. With today's NIL and such, you never really know. I will say that running back position is one that it would not shock me if somebody left because of the amount of guys you have at that position. I'm also of an idea that Crowell is going to play and is going to play fairly often, whether that's next year or, kind of in years to come. But I do think that Crowell is going to be a back of the future. So definitely, I could see Hill or Riley transferring for sure if they don't think that they can be the 2-headed attack. Personally, I would right now not think that they transfer. I think that that's going to come down to a competition of Riley, Hill, and AK Deer for next season. And I think that Crowell was going to be kind of in the AK Deer spot this season. So Crowell will be kind of a year out, and I think that Riley, Hill, and Deer are going to be the ones doing it. 100% agree, Dylan. Yanze did arrive tonight. Talked a little bit about him earlier. I thought that what Pierre has been able to bring to the defensive line, and if y'all are in the Tide Talk Live, Stacy Blackwood, a friend of mine, he's actually a part of the Believe Network that I'm on as well. He has his show. They have a Discord that I'm, fairly active in, and we were talking in there that Yanze Pierre's ability to bring that pass rush has made our defensive backs and coverage better. For anybody that's not huge into the way, one thing leads to another, when you're able to bring pass rush with 4 and not have to bring a blitz to be able to get to the quarterback, like you were able to do tonight at times with Yanze Pierre, it just opens up so much more in the back end with coverage. And it also means that the quarterback's having to get rid of the ball faster, which means your coverage doesn't have to hold for as long, right? Your coverage only has to be good for, 3 seconds, not for, 4, 5, 6, because you just don't have a pass rush. So I think that, the emergence of Yanze Pierre is absolutely phenomenal. It's giving us a pass rusher that Alabama has not had this season. Really, really excited to see him. Also, with him, you're seeing him emerge. I think that you're starting to even see Keon Keeley start to emerge a little bit. I know he didn't finish out in any sacks today, but he was getting some decent push. And obviously, he's a guy that's been well talked about and well kind of discussed in the Alabama circles. He had a sack last week, but Keon Keeley's a name that you're starting to see him get more and more playing time and, do some stuff with it. Is it going to end up amounting to a ton? We will see. But when you look at guys like Pierre and Keeley being 5-star names, like those are some guys that you kind of expect that they're going to have breakout seasons at some point, unless the recruiting service just way undervalued them. Let's see. Let's see. Probably going to go for like maybe 10 more minutes tonight. Like I said, really just decided to go live, obviously, so that I could smoke my cigar, as I mentioned. Sleepy Panda, didn't feel like I heard LT Overton's name all game. He was on the field a good bit. He didn't get the push that I think we have hoped to see out of LT. To me, I think that his speed's just a little slow. And because of that, it kind of, he needs more of a tackle and guard that he can go after that can't handle more of a bull rush. And I think that's part of the reason why you saw him miss out on a bunch of sacks last season. He had a ton of maybe or nearly sacks, but not hardly any actual sacks last season. LT Overton's a guy that I think that definitely, has been playing decently well, but I think his inability to finish on the sacks is largely because of that speed issue, in my opinion. I think that's why you're seeing guys like Rousseau and Pierre, obviously with Rousseau being out, but Rousseau and Pierre, I think that's why you're just seeing more of them getting to the quarterback and being able to finish. Even a guy like James Smith, I think James Smith has pretty good speed in the interior. And so I think that's why you're just seeing those guys be able to finish out a little better than LT Overton. But I would agree. I don't remember hearing his name hardly at all tonight. Like I said, you definitely saw him on the field a good bit, but he just didn't have quite the impact tonight. It really felt like today was the Yanze Pierre game, and he was really the defender that we kind of heard all night. I will say there's one, and obviously this is, you win the game, so this is very nitpicky, but there was one play where I thought that Bray Hubbard was worried too much about delivering the hit, and if he had his eyes on the quarterback, like he generally does a very good job of doing, he would have had an interception. He got hit right in the helmet with it, and he was worried about trying to blow up the ball or blow up the receiver instead of having the eyes on the quarterback with that kind of vision defense, vision coverage that Kane Womack talks about. That is one thing, like I said, super nitpicky, and Bray's done a really, really good job at ball hawking. So I think that's why I mentioned it. If it was somebody else, I don't know that I would even talk about it, but kind of wish that Bray was able to keep his eyes on the quarterback for that one and not just immediately try to blow up the receiver. Because if he had his eyes on the quarterback and eyes on the ball, he definitely would have had an interception on that one. It was thrown right to him. So, as it relates to channel, I'll give you guys, everybody some updates really quick. And I know we talked about a little bit of them earlier. But for anybody that missed it, Alabama obviously plays South Carolina this upcoming week in Columbia. I'm working on a Believe Network collaboration to preview that game. If I don't get one, then the episode will be recorded Wednesday to come out Thursday, or maybe it might come out Wednesday night, depending upon how quickly I am able to record on Wednesday. I try to have them out either later in the evening or later in the afternoon, or first thing the next morning at 9 a.m. generally when I record those episodes. It's just going to depend on if I'm able to get that collaboration set up or not. Just haven't heard back from the guy that does the Believe in South Carolina. Additionally, I will say that Alabama has the Furman exhibition that's going to be happening next Sunday. That game is going to be streaming on ESPN Plus. So for anybody interested in Alabama basketball, that's where you're going to catch that Furman exhibition on ESPN Plus. I will do a little bit of another write-up as to I'll do a little bit more research on Furman and see, what I might be interested in seeing and kind of watching for in that game. So if you're interested in reading the article that I'm going to write on that one, it'll be over on barnesonbama.com. And then we will, of course, do a breakdown episode probably on Monday talking about that exhibition. Just a little bit of a heads up. After South Carolina week, so not this coming week, but the next, I have a couple of planned episodes that I think our basketball people are going to be really, really happy about. Sleepy Panda, see Noah Williamson in that game. Yes, 100% agree. I think that I personally believe that we will see Noah Williamson and Latrell Wrightsell in that game. For anyone that's unaware, I was able to attend SEC Media Days on Tuesday this past week, and Latrell Wrightsell told the media that he was 50% to play in each game, but that there was a 90% chance he played in one of the exhibitions. And so because of that, I really do think that this is going to be Trelley's exhibition that he plays in. And I think as a part of that, I expect Noah Williamson to play. Also, Furman plays a little slower, so I do think that you potentially may see some of the big guys play a little bit more. Aiden Sherrill and Collins Onjiaka combined to only play 18 minutes in that first exhibition, just to how fast Florida State played and the fact that they didn't play through the post at all. But I do think that Noah Williamson potentially is going to play. His lack of athleticism does scare me a little bit. But, still want to get my first eyes on him and kind of live game action. But what I was going to say is I have some episodes lined up where I am going to have, I believe I'm going to have Jordan Harper come on my show again. I know I've recorded with Jordan before, former analyst with Rivals and the Tide, with Tide Illustrated and the Rivals Network. Jordan Harper, he also has the Double Dribble podcast. I really, really like Jordan. I've seen him at a couple of games, and we've become decent, acquaintances, friends, whatever you want to call it. And so he agreed to come on the show. So I think we're going to have him on the show in about 2 weeks. And then I'm supposed to be going on Stacey Blackwood's Tide Talk Live that we talked about as well to talk basketball. There's some other shows that I'm trying to get set up as well that I might be going on with the start of basketball season. It is very convenient that Alabama's off week is Halloween week, and that is also the week before the Alabama basketball season kicks off, and it will be after both exhibitions. So we will have both exhibitions have happened, and then the off week for football before basketball tips off the next Monday. So have had some people, interested in recording. So plan to go on some other shows and talk about that as well. So for anybody kind of interested in the basketball content, that will definitely be ramping up. We will, of course, do the pregame threads as I always have done. Those will be hosted on Twitter, as well as I will put them live on the website. So if you're interested in reading those will be available to read the morning of every game. I got to start working on the North Dakota one to kick it off, get that one, do the research on that one. Obviously, the first one will be a little bit lighter just because there's no stats from the actual games that have been played, so it's a little bit more difficult to specifically go through, player by player stuff. I can give y'all some general ideas as it relates to the team, but with Trace and Eagle staff no longer being from North Dakota, their scouting reports can be a little bit more difficult, but I will try to do my best to give y'all some ideas as to what you might be looking into seeing from a North Dakota standpoint for that first game of the season for anybody that might be looking for those. But like I said, so the plan is this week we'll have the South Carolina episode go live. And then, like I said, over on the website, we will have an article go live probably Saturday, maybe Saturday evening, talking about the exhibition for Furman that's going to be happening on Sunday afternoon. And then after that, we will have a bunch of episodes coming out next week talking basketball. So we are not going to be taking off next week with football being off. With basketball season just around the corner, I will have multiple episodes coming out. And potentially, and like I said, I want to gauge some interest in the comments and such. Depending on how it works out, I might actually go ahead and do my first live stream for basketball this Sunday after the exhibition. We will see how it works. But I might do my first live stream this Sunday after the exhibition and have that one kind of kick everything off. I want to thank all the people who joined this. I know this was super impromptu. I didn't post anything on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or anything that I was thinking about going live tonight. It was kind of a last second decision because Riverside, that, like I said, that I used to record, I realized that I was able to link everything up actually fairly quickly. So that's why I was able to go live tonight. But in the future, if anybody is interested in doing these, let me know. Like I said, I really appreciate y'all joining, though. It's been super fun to have some people in the comments giving me some kind of pointers and some stuff to talk about, as I know that, I assume everybody in here is interested in football and basketball because that's what I cover, but just appreciate everybody joining. My plan is to, like I said, my plan is to potentially record the episode for South Carolina, so be on the lookout for that. And then if y'all are interested in the live streams for the basketball on Sunday afternoons, let me know in my comments. Let me know in the YouTube description, in my YouTube comments or in Twitter DMs or messages or whatever's easiest for you. Just let me know if you're interested in some of that, because like I said, I think that's what my current plan is as it relates to the live streams, because I want to continue ramping up the content that I'm putting out, and I think that live stream potentially is kind of the next avenue, because I really enjoyed being live with the Ball Bros and kind of talking and having a live audience that I can interact with. So if you're interested in that, just let me know. I really would appreciate it. But I think I'm going to call it quits here. Probably going to finish up the cigar. Really want to thank everybody for joining. As I said, I know this was super impromptu, but I really do thank all of you for joining tonight. It's been super fun. And I will catch you on the next episode. So subscribe to the channel and let me know what you enjoyed. Thank you so much. All right. Peace.